Okay. I swear this is the last retro review I'll do for a while. Except for Grim Fandango. I'll be doing that next week. Oh, and Majora's Mask. That one's great too. Fine. I'll admit it. It's been a slow month. I have absolutely no interest in Dying Light, and what I've played of Citizens of Earth hasn't left me with much of an opinion, other than that it's boring and that the humor is too forced. I promise that after Grim Fandango, I'll cover something new. Promise. Seriously, I promise. So, with all that out of the way, let's tell another childhood story. A lot of you remember from my X-Wing and TIE Fighter video that I have fond memories of watching my dad play that game from when I was very young. You may also remember that I never got a chance to play it, and from then on, the very first Star Wars game I played was Rogue Squadron 2 on the GameCube. And holy crap, was that amazing! It started with two of the most iconic set pieces in the Star Wars canon, the Death Star run and the Battle of Hoth. As a kid, I was floored. This was the game that sold me on the GameCube's graphical prowess. So, admittedly, that's why I think Rogue Squadron 3D on the PC is pretty underwhelming. But I still think it's really enjoyable. First, keep in mind that Rogue Squadron is very different from X-Wing. They do look pretty similar, but the two belong to completely different genres. X-Wing is a very serious space combat sim that demands complex knowledge of your ship's controls, fuels, systems, etc. It's a simulation. Rogue Squadron, meanwhile, is a very Star Foxy arcade flight game. It's simple to pick up and play. It's not as deep as something like X-Wing or TIE Fighter, but the easy-to-learn nature of it makes it more accessible, which allowed the folks at Factor 5 to get away with all sorts of cool mission designs. The game features several different missions taking place throughout the Star Wars canon, starting with a small scuffle on Mos Eisley and quickly escalating to things like escort and rescue missions, as well as other things to do. It's kind of impressive how expansive this game is in terms of content, not only in terms of the number of missions, but in the medal system. When you earn your bronze medal after playing your first mission, and trust me, it will be bronze, you'll feel incredibly tempted to go at that mission again. They fly by quickly enough to make them addictive to try again and get as high a score as possible. And that's awesome. But let's talk about something that flies in the face of all that. And I wouldn't say that it's Factor 5's fault so much as it is the game's age. GOG set a high standard with games like X-Wing and Grim Fandango, more on that one next week. These were games that frankly could not run on modern hardware without a lot of technical wizardry. And one thing that GOG prides itself with is the ability to make older games run on modern machines as easily as possible. However, I'm not convinced that they did as good a job with Rogue Squadron as they have with many of their other releases. For example, if you want to play with a controller, you need to go into the shortcuts properties and tweak a few settings. And if you want to change the resolution at all, you're screwed, because the game will crash once you start a mission. Oh, by the way, that's for changing the resolution in-game. Yes, there's an in-game option for it in the settings menu, and utilizing it will crash your game. Yeah. It beats playing the N64 version in an emulator, but this feels like an incredibly fragile port. Just lightly touching some of the game settings will just cause problems and set it off. I suppose I can't really complain, but if a serious sim like X-Wing can handle controller inputs without any trouble, then the more arcadey Rogue Squadron should handle it too. If you can fight through that though, Rogue Squadron is a really good time, on top of being cheap. It has that great arcade thrill of discovering new content and constantly getting better at old content. Just be prepared to tackle some really annoying technical issues before you properly start.